What's up guys, and welcome back to the Kamui dimension. Today we're following up on my last video, and we're again talking about female Jiraiya and her brother, Eida and Daemon, and their potential Otsutsuki connections. In my last video, I talked about why Eida and Daemon probably aren't pure-blooded regular Otsutsuki, and why they probably have some Otsutsuki connection, as well as whether or not Eida and Daemon might have karma seals. So you're definitely going to want to watch that video after you get to the end of this one to get the full picture. We know that blood relatives in Otsutsuki are immune to Eida's love ability, and I mentioned how it's kinda weird how Otsutsuki are immune too. Why doesn't it work on them? One potential reason could be because they are the blood relatives, because she herself is part of Otsutsuki. This could have either been because she got a karma seal, or because she was just born part of Otsutsuki, like Indra and Ashura, and we're going to talk about that second theory today. So in addition to everything I talked about last time, let's establish some more reasons for why Eida and Daemon might be part of Otsutsuki. One observation, which was brought to me by Mello one of the times I was on the Cloud Ninja podcast, is that on the back of the outfits of the side branch of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon that Toneri was a part of, we see a symbol that is identical to the pattern in Eida's eyes, the Senrigan, and from here, everything is stuff I just thought of myself. This alone might be telegraphing something, but there's more to it. After I heard Toneri had the Senrigan symbol on his back, I went back and re-watched Naruto The Last, and then I noticed that during the Civil War in the Moon, the flags of the side branch had this same moon-like symbol that looks just like Eida's eyes, while the main branch had a sun-like symbol that looks pretty similar to Sasuke's Mangekyou Sharingan design. Now, I've said in several videos that maybe we'll end up seeing Eida indirectly causing Sasuke's death by influencing him to attack Boruto and Sarada, where Sasuke has to ask Boruto to kill him to stop him. And funnily enough, the side branch completely wiped out the main branch, so these flags in the events of Naruto The Last with the Otsutsuki clan on the moon could possibly symbolically represent what's to come in Boruto. Maybe it's just a coincidence though, or maybe Kishimoto actually plans to roll with this idea because there are other reasons besides just the flags, as I've already discussed plenty of times before, but I'll leave it at that for now. Another really interesting thing comes back to that conversation between Toneri and Urashiki on the moon. Now, I know some of you will say,
"But Kamui, the enemy is filler, so this doesn't mean anything."
But I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense to have all this dialogue and Toneri's involvement with the Jougan, which Boruto has. In the manga, even drew a panel of a godlike figure and a bunch of Jougans. They have the black sclera like the Jougan, not the white sclera like a Byakugan. And it just doesn't make any sense at all for Boruto to have a filler eye that only exists in the anime. That is just completely stupid and weird, so they're gonna tie in the Jougan at some point, so the moral of the story is, shut up and just accept that as canon. Anyway, Toneri says that he thought the Otsutsuki clan would die with him, but Urashiki mentions that the main family doesn't feel that way, and then Toneri asks, if they exist, then why did they forsake us for 1,000 years? And then Urashiki says, we saw it all. And he knows all about what happened in Naruto The Last with Toneri and Hinata, and about how Toneri did something to that woman's son, referring to Hinata's son, Boruto. Now, people like Momoshiki and Kinshiki, who were busy devouring planets and eating chakra fruits, they didn't know about everything on Earth. But Urashiki knew a heck of a lot, and he's the one who spoke about how we saw it all. However, Toneri points out that they only just showed up now, and they don't know everything about Earth. And Urashiki says, yes, we don't. That is why we were dispatched. So that kind of begs the question, how did they see everything, and what exactly did they see? Urashiki didn't say, we know everything, as in like he was spying on Earth and just told everyone back at home. He says we saw everything, like they actually saw it. And the Senrigan is a dojutsu that would give them the ability to do that, as it lets you just project yourself anywhere you want to see and hear what's happening where you chose to look at. I don't think the Byakugan is enough for this because Urashiki couldn't even see all that far with it to look for Boruto and Shinki. It's not like it has the range to see an entire planet's worth of distance, let alone between planets. No Byakugan we've seen can see that far away. Whereas Eida's Senrigan is able to do that since it can see anything in the world no matter the distance. So maybe there's someone with the Senrigan who saw some stuff back at the Otsutsuki clan's home, and they just told everyone about it, and that's why Urashiki says we saw it all, because he's just saying that the clan is aware of the events that happened on the moon, and someone at least saw it. And Urashiki also had knowledge about the tailed beast and what happened with Kaguya and her two sons, and how Kaguya feared their arrival, which is kind of weird when you think about it, because they didn't know about what happened to Kaguya. They didn't even know why she didn't come back to the Otsutsuki home planet with a chakra fruit for a long time, but somehow they found out what happened in the past. How did they do that? Well, the Senrigan does let you go into the past, so it's possible at least. Alternatively, they might have something similar going on to what the Otsutsuki clan on the moon was doing with their giant Tensegan, where they were creating the Tensegan thing by giving up their Byakugan eyes, and this was separate from the Tensegan that Toneri awakened when he implanted Hanabi's eyes into himself. So there might be something similar going on where Eida has the actual Dojutsu in her eyes, like Toneri's Tensegan, and then the clan might have a giant Senrigan that's like a TV for all the Otsutsuki to watch or whatever. I mean, I think the first option sounds a lot more likely though, but maybe the second one's possible. The point though is that Urashiki and the others who were at home and not growing chakra fruits knew a lot about Earth and what Toneri has been doing. They just didn't know every little detail. Now, as far as why the side branch on the moon would wear the symbol of the Senrigan in their outfits and on their flags, when the movie was actually written, it probably was just meant to represent lightness and darkness, where the main branch on the moon had a positive or bright outlook on Earth, whereas the side branch had a negative or dark outlook on Earth, and the sun versus moon symbols were meant to represent that. But when the Boruto series came around and started building on some of these concepts, there is a chance that they might want to add a more specific reason for these design choices, and there's a lot of ways they could go about this, and I will give you guys one option towards the end of the video, so just be patient please. So between the groundwork I just laid out here, and my previous video about whether Eida and Daemon have karma seals, let's now talk about the other potential Otsutsuki connection Eida and Daemon might have, which is that they are partial Otsutsuki, and are part of Toneri's side branch, or at least have a heavy connection to them, like they are descendants of them or something like that. Now, when I say they might be part of Toneri's branch, I don't mean they are as much Otsutsuki as he is. His whole clan seemed to mostly look like regular humans that just lived on the moon somehow. So Eida and Daemon could be more like Indra and Ashura, most notably Indra, where they have some Otsutsuki DNA and characteristics, like having a Dojutsu, and they dress fairly similarly, but they don't have super white skin or white hair. And as a side note, I have absolutely no idea what they were eating for food, or where they got their water for all those years on the moon, because as far as we saw, there was just a bunch of people and nothing else. Hopefully they explain that one day. Anyway, something I've always found kinda weird is how, when Eida introduces Daemon to Code and the readers, she says, "Allow me to introduce my one other knight, an actual little brother, Daemon." The word actual is what always struck me as odd, especially since actual is bolded. That means the word actual is intentionally being emphasized here. It's not just me overanalyzing the words, they did that on purpose. So the question is, why is the word actual being emphasized here? And why is she saying actual little brother, rather than just saying my little brother? I can only offer two explanations for this. Either Daemon isn't actually her little brother, and she's just lying, and she's trying really hard to make it seem like Daemon is actually her brother, or she's distinguishing between her actual little brother versus someone who's not actually her little brother, who she might otherwise call her brother. A good example of what I mean is how the Hyuga clan, who are also Hamura's descendants, call their clan members brother and sister even when they are not actually brother and sister. For example, Hinata always called Neji her brother, even back when the relationship was horrible and they did not act like brother and sister yet. And Kakashi explained to Sakura during Neji and Hinata's preliminary match that they are both descendants from the Hyuga clan, not actually brother and sister. They are just related, and that's what they call each other. It could be the same with Hamura's descendants on the moon. They might do the same thing where they call their cousins brother and sister, and because of that, Eida is used to having to distinguish between her relatives, who she calls brothers, and her actual little brother, Daemon. The biggest reason for it though is probably for Kishimoto to hint to the readers that there is something important about Eida saying Daemon is her actual little brother, making the reader more interested in Eida and Daemon as characters, and allowing us to make predictions and theories like this one here. Moving on, we know from Naruto the Last that the Otsutsuki clan on the moon was in touch with Earth, as Hamura's initial job was to watch over Kaguya and Earth, and probably swung by to say hi to Hagoromo at least once, at some point, which would explain how the Hyuga clan originated from him as well as the side branch on the moon. Hamura probably met a lady on Earth and started the Hyuga clan, and hell, maybe even another lady for the Kaguya clan that Kimimaro was from, Or maybe they just descended from the Hyuga clan or Senju clan, who knows. And Hamura may have brought another lady back to the moon to start the third clan on the moon. And we also know Toneri and his father came to Earth to spy on Hinata several times in the past. Toneri has also spoken to Boruto through his dreams in the anime, and somehow pure Otsutsuki are able to see things on Earth because Urashiki said that, we saw everything. And somehow the main family of the Otsutsuki clan knows all about what happened on Earth, as I mentioned before. Like the whole stuff with Kaguya. And Toneri knew the humans had been abusing chakra, and that's why he wanted to destroy the Earth. That was one of the big plot points of Naruto the Last. So given this clear connection between the moon and the Earth, it's not too hard to imagine that Eida and her parents could have left the moon and traveled to Earth at some point. So the question that follows would be, why they would leave the moon for Earth? And I think the answer is the civil war on the moon, which is the center of this entire discussion. Toneri was said to be the last remaining member of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon because of that civil war. But if Eida and her parents fled the moon to Earth because of the war, deciding that Earth looked like a nicer place to live for whatever the reason, that wouldn't change the fact that Toneri was the last remaining member on the moon. And even if you want to say, nope, everyone else was supposed to be dead, maybe Toneri just didn't know that they were alive on Earth. Maybe they just snuck off and pretended to be dead. I'm going to come back to the Civil War stuff later in the video, and there is also an alternative option where Eida and Daemon were just born on Earth instead, but let's talk more about Eida and Daemon's Dojutsu first. What do their eyes look like? They look like moons. There are 3 Dojutsu in Naruto with moon designs, those being Eida's Senrigan, which looks like a crescent moon, Daemon's unnamed Dojutsu, which looks like a half moon, and Boruto's Jougan, which looks like a full moon, and maybe Code's eyes might be a solar eclipse. I've heard people say that, but that remains to be seen for now. The Sharingan, Byakugan, Rinnegan, Tenseigan, Ketsuryugan, Ranmaru's Dojutsu from the Raiga filler arc, and Ishiki's unnamed eye all don't look like moons. Just these 3 no Dojutsu. The similarities go beyond just appearances though. When it comes to Boruto's Jougan, we don't know the specifics for how Boruto was able to awaken that eye yet, but we do know that Toneri did something to Boruto somehow that is related to Boruto's Jougan, as he appeared in Boruto's dreams to talk to him, somehow could sense what's going on with Nue and Boruto in the Jougan, and Urashiki mentioned how they saw what happened with the woman with the Byakugan and what Toneri did to that woman's son, referring to Hinata and Boruto. The point is that Toneri, who was an Otsutsuki from Hamura's clan on the moon, did something to Boruto in relation to his Jougan, and he somehow has knowledge about that eye as well. Somehow, Toneri is connected to the Jougan, a moon-like Dojutsu, and a side branch where the symbol of Eida's Senrigan on their outfits, and the war flags, another moon-like Dojutsu, and Toneri himself wears this symbol even in Boruto. This means that Toneri, who lives on the moon, is connected to both the Jougan and the Senrigan, both being Dojutsu that look like moons. In short, I think Eida's particular Senrigan probably stems from Hamura's Otsutsuki clan on the moon, whether she was the first to have a genetic mutation and awaken the eye, or if it originates from the main family of the Otsutsuki clan, but eventually those genes got passed down to the moon, which is how Eida eventually awakened it. Either way, as I alluded to earlier in the video, there might be at least one other Otsutsuki who has the Senrigan, just like how the Jougan seems to be a thing people like Urashiki just know about, probably because someone else had it, or still has it. The Senrigan could be similar, and just like how Boruto's particular Jougan stems from the moon, via whatever Toneri did, and whatever Boruto genetics are involved as well, I think Eida's particular Senrigan also stems from the moon. And similar to how Kimimaro was very rare among the Kaguya clan, where he actually awakened the bone ability called Shikatsumyaku, maybe it's similar with Eida, where she's one of the rare few to awaken the Senrigan. Another reason why the whole moon thing is particularly interesting is because Boruto's Jougan possesses similarities to both the Senrigan and Daemon's Dojutsu as well. And my good pal Kitamaki made a video that talks about this, although the theory is completely different from this one. Eida's Senrigan allows her to project herself anywhere in the world to watch and listen to what's going on, and she can also go into the past up until she was born to do the same thing. Now what's interesting is that Boruto kinda does the same thing when Boruto, Sumire, and Mitsuki were in Nue's dimension, where Boruto could literally see and hear Denki, Shikadai, and Inojin calling out for them, and that's how he figured out how to get back home, because he could hear their voices. Daemon's Dojutsu also seems to possess some sort of precognition elements, since he can reflect attacks onto you before you actually attack him, and we saw Boruto appear to use some type of precognition against Momoshiki, allowing him to dodge him with ease and hit him with a Rasengan. Furthermore, Daemon seems to be able to peer into your heart and read your intentions towards him, such as the intent to kill by slicing his head off or whatever. Similar to how Boruto's Jougan allowed him to see people's negative emotions in the New Way arc, just like Naruto could do with KCM during the War arc. So there's definitely some similarities with the abilities, but obviously they're not exactly the same, as Daemon has the reflection benefit, and Eida can also see into the past, which Boruto hasn't shown the ability to do quite yet. But the point is, the abilities seem fairly connected, and they all are dojutsu with moon designs, and Boruto's ultimately stemmed from the moon, so I think Eida's Senrigan does as well. Now, some of you probably think Amado created Eida's Senrigan, so now is a good time I finally address this. Whether Eida and Daemon were born partial Otsutsukis, or if they have karma seals, or if neither is true, I still think Eida's Senrigan is completely separate from whatever Otsutsuki abilities Eida may have gotten from that potential karma seal, if she were to have one. And I don't think Amado just created her eye either, because I think Eida was probably born with the Senrigan, as I've said in the past, and here's why. Eida said that she could see into the past with her Senrigan only up until the point she was born, and she cannot see into the future. She can only see with her Senrigan during times in which she was alive, and this is important. If Amado gave the Senrigan to Eida, either via a karma seal from an Otsutsuki who had it, or just created it for her with his ninja tech, that would mean Eida got it at some point after she was born. She did not join Kara and get modified by Amado the instant she was born. That makes no sense with the timeline, because Eida looks to be, at absolute bare minimum, 15 or 16, and she's probably older than that, let's be honest. And the Fourth Great Ninja War took place 15 years before the Momoshiki arc, which is 1 year before where we are currently in the story. And so the Fourth War was 16 years ago. Kara didn't exist back then, so there's no way Eida was modified by Amado the instant she was born. That makes no sense. So with that in mind, if Amado gave Eida the Senrigan, one way or another, at a time after she was born, whether she was 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, or even 1 year old, it doesn't matter. That would mean that the Senrigan lets her see into the past at a point before she even got the Senrigan. She says she can see up until she was born, not up until she got the Senrigan. If the Senrigan lets her see into the past before she even got the eye, at that point, why would it not let her see before she was born? That doesn't really make sense. It's already letting her see into the past before she even got the eye, so why would it stop when she was born? I don't buy it, that's just weird. But if she was born with the Senrigan, then that makes sense to me, because it's a matter of she can only see in time periods in which she was alive with the eye, which would be from birth to the present, and she can't see into the future because she's not in the future yet, so she hasn't lived to that point. That makes sense to me, so I'm sticking to it. I think she was born with the Senrigan, and whatever abilities she's been hiding from Code could be the ones from that potential karma seal, or just some other ability she has from being a partial Otsutsuki, or that Amado gave to her, like her love ability, but a different ability. Furthermore, Toneri's clan was still wearing that Senrigan symbol before Kara was created, so the Senrigan probably wasn't some original idea by Amado. It already existed somewhere. Now for Daemon, I'm not as sure about whether he was born with that eye, or if Amado created it, or if it's from an Otsutsuki that gave him a karma seal, because it doesn't have that I can only go into the past up until I was born thing. There's really a lot of ways to go about it, but I think the one that's the coolest to me would be if Daemon was born with his dojutsu, and it gives him some form of future sight and the ability to peer into the hearts of people. Similar to how Boruto's Jougan gave him some sort of precognition, it allows him to detect negative emotions, just like Naruto could with KCM. And so Daemon can detect your intent towards him and predict attacks, and then Amado took that ability of the eye and just added on the ability to reflect what Daemon could detect with the eye. In other words, he took Daemon's dojutsu and just added a battle-relevant ability to where it can reflect what he detects, whether it's from precognition or sensing of negative emotions or whatever mechanic they want to use. Another thing about this that works really well is that Eida and Daemon's dojutsu use similar concepts, aka time, but they don't seem to overlap with the actual abilities. Eida can see into the past and present, but not the future, and she can't peer into your heart, as Shikamaru says. Daemon can seemingly see into the future and peer into your heart, but he can't project himself into the present or in other parts of the world or peer into the past, while Boruto's Jougan has shown the ability to do almost all of these things so far, just not quite as well. This way, Daemon could have been born with his Dojutsu, and Amado just added something to make it even more broken, so I think that would be really cool. But it is also possible that Amado just created it out of inspiration from Eida Senrigan. I prefer my idea though. Now then, at this point, we've established the connections to Eida, Daemon, Toneri, the Moon, Boruto's Jougan, and the Civil War in the Moon. So let's finally tie it all together and see exactly how Eida and Daemon could be part of Otsutsuki and how the timeline of events may have occurred. There are several ways to do this, but I'm just going to give you my favorite option because honestly, something like this is pretty hard to predict perfectly. I alluded to this at the end of my last video, but perhaps at some point, two Otsutsuki from the main family travel to the moon. These Otsutsuki would be the two from those destroyed Otsutsuki panels. All of those Otsutsuki are ones who came to Earth at some point, and these Otsutsuki may have also traveled to Earth too, or the moon was just close enough to count. One of those Otsutsuki may have had the Senrigan, and that Otsutsuki may have been the one who started feeding the side branch the ideas to start a civil war and destroy the Earth, and that's why they bore the symbol of the Senrigan on their cloaks and flags, because they revered that Otsutsuki as a leader, and that Senrigan was a symbol of hope for them because they could spy on the other side without putting themselves in danger, and it also represented what they were doing on Earth. They were watching things all along and disapproved of the humans' actions on Earth, and that Otsutsuki might not have even tried to pretend to be a god or anything. He may have just tried to blend in as one of the other side branch members who was like Toneri with the Otsutsuki appearance, who knows. And on the other side, okay, this part's just for fun, perhaps that Otsutsuki's partner had a Dojutsu with a sun-like appearance, who sided with the other side and didn't want to destroy Earth for whatever reason. And the main branch saw this Otsutsuki as a symbol of hope as well, and it symbolically represented their positive outlook on Earth. And maybe those two panels were destroyed because the two Otsutsuki were fighting each other. That's just kind of for fun though. More realistically, it would probably be a case where those two Otsutsuki instigated the Civil War together for whatever reason, and then they went back to the Otsutsuki home and watched the rest that happened during Naruto the Last and shared that information with everyone, and that's why people like Urashiki knew about what happened with Toneri on the moon. Now, while still on the moon, the Otsutsuki who had the Senrigan may have had children within an Otsutsuki from Hamura's family on the moon, and at some point down the line, Eida was born. But just like how Hashirama's wood style and Kimimaru's bones were rare Kekkei Genkai among their clans that skipped over generations and were only awakened by extremely rare individuals. In fact, those two may have even been the only ones from the clans to ever awaken those Kekkei Genkai. Eida's Senrigan could be the same way, where she was the only one to awaken the same eye as her ancestor, who may have been her father or mother, grandfather or grandmother, great-grandfather or great-grandmother, or however far down the line they want to go. I'm guessing it would probably be at least her grandfather or grandmother, though, based on their appearances being similar to Indra and Ashura. The Fourth Great Ninja War was 16 years ago, and Naruto the Last took place 2 years after the Fourth War, meaning that was 14 years ago, and Eida looks to be at least 16 years old, if not older. So Eida should have been at least 2 years old during Naruto the Last, but Daemon definitely wasn't born yet, since he seems to be younger than even Himawari. Eida's parents may have decided to leave the moon because they wanted to keep Eida safe from harm since she was only a small child, and that could be why they fled to Earth. And then like 8 or 10 years later or so, they may have had another child, which would be Daemon. Alternatively, that Otsutsuki pair from the destroyed panels may have come to Earth, and the one with the Senrigan may have had children at some point, and then went and instigated the war on the moon, and then went back home at the Otsutsuki clan home base, wherever they live. And somewhere down the line, Eida and Daemon were born. Unfortunately, we don't know the fates of Eida and Daemon's parents. They could be dead, or they might be alive, but just be fodder civilians because they were peaceful and didn't want to be fighters, and all the good genes probably went to their kids, who also joined Kara and gained even more abilities. As far as Eida's master plan and why she and Daemon joined Kara, I've already made videos on the subject, one about Amado's technology and the other about Eida's master plan, and I recommend you go watch those videos after this one, but I'll give you guys a super brief summary, pooling the ideas together. People might not have truly loved Eida on Earth, or on the moon, either because they didn't trust her with their Senrigan, and felt like they could never have privacy since she could always be watching them, or because they were pretending to love her so that they could use her Senrigan for their own selfish purposes. And so, Eida may have wished for people to genuinely love her, but Amado's technology took it too far so that everyone loves her against their will, so the love is not real and it's also way overboard. And so, she needed a Shiki to grant her wish for a true Shining Prince to come her way to share the genuine love with her that she desired. Since the Shiki is dead, she set her eyes on Kawaki, who would be able to acquire that wish-granting ability through the Karma Seal, which is why she doesn't really care about Boruto, even though she thinks he's hot and he's 100% Otsutsuki, and would also be immune to her love ability. For Daemon, he probably just joined Kara alongside his big sister Eida, and perhaps he got bullied for some reason, like maybe for his hair and nails, and he wished he could reflect their malicious intent that he could detect with his Dojutsu back onto them instead. And then he got a reflection ability that also takes it too far since it reflects everything even when there is no harmful intent, like when Code tried putting claw marks on Daemon. Like I said, check out the Amado's technology and Eida's master plan videos for much more explanation. Overall, I think that something like this could definitely play out in the story. Eida and Daemon may have an Otsutsuki ancestor and possibly a direct lineage from Hamura's clan on the moon, which explains everything I've talked about throughout the video. I want to hear what you guys think though. After hearing me lay everything out over the last two videos, do you think Eida and Daemon have any Otsutsuki connections at all? And if so, what do you think those connections will be? Will they have Karma Seals? Will they be fairly close descendants to an Otsutsuki from those two destroyed panels, and possibly be descendants of Hamura's clan on the moon? Or will they be like Kimimaro and just be way down the line of ancestry, but happen to awaken a super rare Kekkei Genkai from a very distant ancestor? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but that's a wrap on today's video, so thank you guys for watching till the end. But I'm gonna have to remind you that
you're already under my genjutsu.
So subscribe, leave a comment, like the video, and hit that bell icon for notifications. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!